All right, good morning, everybody. This morning, I'm joined by our City Council President Pro Tem, Joe LaCava, Michelle Anderson, the Chair of the San Diego Parks Foundation, Michael Zuquette, the General Manager of our Municipal Employees Association, Melinda Vasquez, one of our commissioners at the San Diego Housing Commission, Deacon Jim Vargas, the President and CEO of Father Joe's Villages, Hanan Scrapper, Regional Director of PATH, or also known as People Assisting the Homeless, Carol McBurney, Deputy Director at the Legal Aid Society of San Diego, and a number of our department directors from across the city. Today, I'm releasing my updated budget for fiscal year 2025, also known as the May Revise. Under city law, my administration is required to propose a preliminary draft budget each April based on available economic data at the time. Then, the City Council hosts a week-long budget review process to solicit public feedback. With updated financials, each May I'm required to release an updated budget proposal based on the new information. And so that is what is being presented today, and that's the budget the City Council will consider next month. And so I want to be clear right at the outset. This budget protects the progress that we have made on the most important issues facing our city: addressing homelessness, building more housing, repairing our infrastructure, and keeping the public safe. It does so without resorting to the actions that have been taken in the past when the city has faced similar large budget deficits. Specifically, we are not browning out fire stations. We are not closing rec centers. We are not reducing library hours. And we are not balancing the budget on the backs of the city employees that San Diegans rely on for services. As I've previously announced, this budget includes funding for a new 1,000-bed shelter to keep addressing homelessness by getting people off our streets and connected to care. A new safe parking lot on city-owned land near the airport known as H Barracks to do the same. Initiatives that accelerate permitting for 100% affordable housing projects and for projects in transit-oriented developments under our Complete Communities program in order to build more housing faster. Over 200 miles of road repair to keep fixing our streets, flood control and green infrastructure projects, and staffing and operational costs for the new Torrey Pines Fire Station, which is slated to open in just a few weeks. This budget also represents the largest investment in capital projects in our city's history. With our aging infrastructure and the challenge of climate change, our city requires substantial infrastructure investment, and we are doing as much as we can with the resources that we have available to us. Here's some additional highlights I'd like to draw to your attention. From our general fund and the Housing Commission's proposed budget, we are preserving existing service levels for housing and homelessness programs that are currently administered by the San Diego Housing Commission. Specifically, the Eviction Protection Program, the Multidisciplinary Outreach Team, the Housing Instability Prevention Program, and the Neil Good Day Center. Additionally, my budget adds funding for teen center programming in Council Districts 4, 8, and 9. Citywide, the budget adds funding for youth swimming programs and our Come Play Outside initiative that I launched back in 2021 that provides low or no-cost programs and events in historically disadvantaged communities. It funds our SD Access for All initiative, Wi-Fi access, library hotspot checkouts, and digital literacy programming. For libraries, it funds youth service librarian positions, after-school programs, and our library materials donation match program. It makes Climate Equity Fund investments in traffic signal upgrades to improve safety in Barrio Logan and traffic calming measures on 47th Street in Choice View. It funds No Shots Fired, a collaborative effort to provide outreach and resources to known gang members in specific communities and offering them the opportunity to exit that life. It provides funding for the creation of a new library in San Carlos, the Juvenile Services Team and front counter staffing at the San Diego Police Department, and the San Diego Fire Rescue Department's San Pasqual Response Team. Finally, it accounts for new contracts currently under negotiation with the unions representing our police officers, our firefighters, and our lifeguards. We were able to make these adjustments in next year's budget in part because of an accelerated disbursement of state homelessness funding that we've been due to receive at a later date. I want to acknowledge the extraordinary work of my Government Affairs Department for securing this one-time funding earlier than planned so that we can put it towards addressing homelessness now. It also underscores the importance of these dollars and why we press so hard at the state level to maintain this critical funding. This budget confronts a considerable deficit, and as such, it has required some very tough decisions in order to deliver a balanced budget. None of these decisions were taken lightly, and our goal was, and will always be, to deliver the highest service levels that we can within the means that we have to work with. But the bottom line is this: this budget is balanced, it is prudent, and it protects the progress we've made on the issues that San Diegans care most about. And that has been my commitment to this city all along. Regardless of the circumstances that we face or the deficits that may be projected in any particular fiscal year, I'm committed to leading us through this process and enacting a budget that is just as I described: balanced, prudent, and fiscally responsible, and ready to address the challenges that may come in the years ahead. That is what I presented with my initial draft. That is what we're presenting today, and that is what I'm asking the City Council to approve next month. With those comments, it's my pleasure to introduce our City Council President Pro Tem and the representative for Council District 1, Councilmember Joe LaCava. Councilmember?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the hundreds of individuals who made their voices heard loud and clear at the City Council Budget Review Committee meetings these past 2 weeks. Our advocates, the City Council, and our responsive mayor have led to a May-revised budget that restores many important programs. I think it's worth repeating just a few of them. The No Shots Fired, the Juvenile Services Team provided by San Diego Police Department, the after-school and teen programs in Districts 4, 8, and 9, security for Your Safe Place operated by the City Attorney, full swimming pool programming across the city, and implementing Vision Zero solutions. In other words, the process is working. The proposed budget, which dropped in mid-April, provided the initial stage for Budget Review Committee Chair Kent Lee and the Council to take a deep dive with city operations and the communities we serve. Today, armed with the voice of the people and up-to-date financials, the Mayor is restoring programs and preserving progress. This Thursday, Chair Lee will convene a public hearing of the Budget Review Committee to hear the full presentation by the Mayor and staff, as well as third quarter report on revenue and expenditures and updated projections. The budget conversations will continue on June 7th, focusing on putting limited resources where they will do the most good and making difficult cuts where they will do the least harm. I look forward to continuing that conversation with Mayor Gloria, the Budget Review Committee, our independent analysts, and of course, our engaged residents and organizations. During these times of difficult conversations and delicate cuts that we have to make to the budget, it is really incumbent for us as elected officials to be working together, collaborating, and making those hard decisions. And for that, I want to thank the Mayor for that ongoing collaboration. And with that, I have the honor to introduce the past chair of the board and current board member of the San Diego Parks Foundation, Michelle Anderson.
Thank you, Joe. I want to thank Mayor Gloria and his administration for realizing the importance of providing free public access to the public. I'm with the San Diego Parks Foundation, and one of our signature achievements, we've only been around about 5 years, we're a nonprofit 501c3, but one of our first signature achievements was to install Wi-Fi in 59 of our recreation centers and pools. We raised the money. We got a lot of in-kind contributions because we saw the need in communities of concern to provide free public access for kids and families, because as you know, there's so many communities in San Diego that don't have access to free public Wi-Fi. So we came to the city, we got a right of entry permit, and then the pandemic hit. So we expanded the program from the original 25 rec centers to 59. So I am so pleased. I could do backflips this morning, ladies and gentlemen, because the Gloria administration has realized the importance of providing free access to our community and to our families and citizens. So the Gloria administration didn't do it for the Parks Foundation. they did it for the citizens in San Diego, and for that, I'm extremely thankful. Todd?
Thank you, Michelle. And with that, that concludes our presentation. We have obviously a large number of both community partners from our homeless services world, from Legal Aid Society, as well as our department directors. Let me just say that this is a team effort, and I want to acknowledge Matt Vespi, our Chief Financial Officer, Rolando Cherval from our Department of Finance, all working together. Their teams have put in considerable effort. This is not an easy process, but it's one that, given the ability to protect so much of our progress and continue to make key investments in road repair, safety, infrastructure, despite our enormous budget deficit, really speaks to their talent and the charge that I've given them that they've helped to meet. And we look forward again to not only just publishing this today, but presenting this to the City Council for its full consideration next month. Happy to take any questions. Kelly. Mm-hmm.
How much did you guys receive, and does that restore all the, shortfall that was there with the Housing Commission?
$5 million, and yes, to answer your questions.
There's no cuts at all to the Housing Commission?
It is flat, is maintaining the services. There are, well, actually, I should say, there are some modest increases that were requested by the commission. Some of the programs are held flat where there was this aspiration to do more. What this budget does is no reductions. It has some targeted increases. Again, this is the result of successful advocacy in Sacramento and why that money from Sacramento is so very important.
Has that money arrived, or it incrementally is coming and it's sooner than we expected, and that's why you were able to restore the Housing Commission?
Option B, yeah. It's when we proposed the budget back in April, we are anticipating receipt of these funds far later in the fiscal year. These are going to come sooner, and therefore allows us to have the continuity that we're mentioning to Kelly for these programs that people rely upon.
If I may follow up, Governor Newsom has acknowledged he vastly underestimated the gap. How is that impacting us, especially homeless funds?
So we are currently, how do I want to say this? So the program at the state level is known as HAP. HAP is what you've seen me go up to Sacramento repeatedly to advocate for. We're currently expending dollars from HAP 4. The legislature and the governor have appropriated HAP 5. His budget is in contemplating HAP 6. So this all is sort of a slow process, right? What they approved several years ago, we're spending now. What they've appropriated this current fiscal year is coming to us soon. At some point, they'll release those dollars. That's what we're talking about now. And then what they may do going forward is a question mark because, as you mentioned, the governor is grappling with a significant budget deficit. That said, it is very apparent to me that these dollars are very, very important. As you may know, I have the honor of chairing the California Big City Mayors Coalition, a bipartisan group of mayors of the 13 largest cities in California, representing 11 million residents of this state. All of us are going to lobby to make sure those dollars are maintained. We know that we have tremendous support in the legislature. And the bottom line is this: any reduction to state investment in homelessness will mean that more folks will end up on the streets, right? There has been a question, are we doing enough and are we doing it fast enough? Ed, you know me. I am as impatient as they come. I want to do everything yesterday. So I share the governor and the legislature's desire to see more. But to do more while simultaneously, or asking for more while reducing funding, is not going to get the job done. It, in fact, will put thousands of people back on the streets. Order of magnitude, in my administration, as you probably know and hopefully reported, has nearly doubled the number of sheltering opportunities in the 3.5 years that I've been mayor, going from about 1,000 to over 2,000 today. HAP is responsible for funding roughly 1,100 of those beds. So any reduction in state resources could be very detrimental to our ability to respond to homelessness. That's why I believe the legislature will maintain this funding. And if anything, we'd ask them to do more. We all want to see fewer homeless people on the streets. And one of the ways to do that is make sure that cities are resourced correctly.
May I ask one more follow-up?
Of course you can.
You mentioned Vine and Kentner, as well as Liberty Station.
Mm-hmm.
They're still on track in
H
your
barracks.
mind, despite the protests that are going on, specifically as it relates to and again, these are the critics. The Kentner deal is just doesn't pencil out financially, and you don't appreciate this isn't light industry there. We've got a lot of homes just on the other side, and the residents are getting relatively active. You're going, look, you need to appreciate this is our chance to get 1,000 beds, not 210.
Yeah. Well, perhaps a couple of things. First off, the safe parking lot is at H Barracks, which is next to the San Diego airport. it is not at Liberty Station. It's adjacent. It's close, yes, but it is a boat channel away. So just framing, right? This budget does fund both of those initiatives, both the 1,000 beds and the 200 space parking lot at H Barracks. H Barracks, as you may have seen, go out there and look at it today. We've demolished the buildings that are there. We are under construction. We're making progress on that. My hope is that we will get that done relatively quickly. We need to do it in order to have folks who are currently residing in their cars in a safe and more hygienic location than simply sleeping in front of someone's home or business. This is a way to get people connected to services in order for them to end their homelessness rather than just habitating in their car somewhere in a neighborhood. With regard to Kettner and Vine, as you probably know, we are currently in negotiations with the property owner. We had an item in closed session yesterday to discuss the negotiations, which are ongoing. Ed, here's the deal. If it's Kettner and Vine or it's somewhere else, we're going to get this job done. We need additional beds. I think Kettner and Vine is an ideal location because of where it's situated, where it's relatively close to downtown. It's next to light rail. It is surrounded by a freeway, an SD substation, railroad tracks. It is in an ideal location. I've heard the concerns, Ed, but here's the deal. I've been around a while. I've built and established many homeless shelters. Every single one of those have experienced public opposition for a fear of the unknown. Every one of those that have gotten built have been fine. And in fact, I would remind you, and every reporter here, that same neighborhood has 2 very large homeless shelters already in the vicinity. They're fine. This will be fine. What I know for sure is that if and when this opens, the situation will be appreciably better than having people live on a sidewalk. It is not hygienic. It is not safe for them or for the broader community. So we need to get this done. We're continuing to do the work with the property owner and with the city council to get this done, and mindful this budget will fund it and help get it done. We got to move faster than we're going right now. San Diegans are upset about the situation with homelessness in our city. Their mayor wholeheartedly agrees, and their mayor is doing everything humanly possible to address it as fast as possible, and I expect the city council to work with me to get that done.
Mayor, to be clear, there is no new cuts to this new proposed budget, this updated budget that you're presenting right now.
No, there are no. Today's revision only has service level increases or restorations. There are no reductions.
Did you have to cut, so you didn't have to cut other places? I know you talked about restoring and work programs, like,
Yeah.
How did you balance it then if you didn't make any cuts?
Well, so there's a couple things going on here. Between when we proposed the budget back in April, and in many cases, and there are smarter people here to talk about this, but generally speaking, we're using data from the fall of 2023 to inform that proposal. What we now have is the benefit of 6 additional months of financial performance to understand where we're going to be in order to make proposals. Here's some other things that have happened. Earlier this year, I took immediate and decisive action to make sure that we could anticipate this deficit. What did we do? We slowed down hiring and we slowed down discretionary spending at the city. That has saved a tremendous amount of money. That is money that we're using to do these restorations. As I mentioned, the funding advocacy in Sacramento, there have been a handful of other things here or there that allow us to cobble together these service restorations. Everything I've mentioned to you today are relatively low cost. You might assume that these things are wildly expensive, but things that we're talking about could cost several $10,000 to several $100,000. So these are not huge increases, but I know they'll make a huge difference in our neighborhoods, and that's why we're restoring them. The last thing is what I need to tell you, if you're not picking it up, there are still reductions in this budget. We have balanced this budget by doing a handful of strategic things. Everything I just mentioned to you, plus a 2% across-the-board reduction for all departments, which we believe they can absorb. We have swept unspent funds across the city. Sometimes there are things that have been appropriated but never spent. Those dollars are getting pulled back into the general fund so that we can avoid unnecessary cuts. We're also doing things like a reserve holiday, right? We're not going to make a contribution to our reserve fund. We're not spending our reserves, but we're not contributing to them either. So the 2% across the board, the fund sweeps, the one-time efforts like the reserve holiday, these all cobbled together allow us to address that $170+ million budget deficit while simultaneously not browning out fire engines, not laying off staff, not closing rec centers, and not cutting library hours.
Just to be clear, the Office of Immigration Affairs, the Cannabis Equity Program, the climate.
Correct. Those are still,
Those are all still.
under my proposal, those have still, are still as proposed, not moving forward. Obviously, the city council can choose to do something different. Naturally, if they choose to do that, they're going to have to find a corresponding cut to make the budget balance. And I would say that my focus and my priority is making sure we're preserving the services that are happening today. What Michelle Anderson was talking about the free Wi-Fi that's going on at those 50-plus locations across the city, that will continue under this proposal, and that's contrasted with leaving funds in an account that may or may not get spent and may or not be felt by the public. Our focus and our intention is maintaining the highest service levels possible that San Diegans can have during this time, rather than storing money away for stuff that we may not ever get around to. Of course.
What happens if the mega shelter doesn't go forward? What happens to the money that you're allocating or setting aside? It will just go to another project?
Let me disagree with the premise of your question. We are going to get this done. We cannot not do this. Is that grammatically correct? Probably not. But Kelly, here's the deal. How many homeless people did you see walking in here today? How many did you see on your way to work? How many are you going to see on the rest of your day? We have thousands of people that are living outdoors. Failure is not an option. We have to get these beds done. Now, it could be at the location that's currently proposed. It could be at another location. Bottom line, we need these additional beds. I have pushed hard to double the number of beds. I'm looking to triple it before my first term is over. We are going to get this done because the alternative is to leave folks on the sidewalk. A reminder, and I heard some of the public testimony, I think, Ed, what you were referring to yesterday, about the humanity of a large shelter. It is not humane to leave these people on the sidewalk. And anyone who's arguing that different is not being intellectually honest. So here's the thing. We're going to get this done, Kelly. Now, in a world where you described what you described, that money, we will continue to find ways to make sure that we continue to invest in homelessness because it's the #1 priority I hear from San Diegans about. This used to be a downtown thing. You know, just people in downtown would complain about it. I never agreed with that, but that was typically the perception. This is a citywide thing. There is not a neighborhood in the city that I go to that is not frustrated about homelessness. And they're exactly right. But they can't be frustrated about homelessness and block homeless shelters. That is not consistent. And so we're going to take them up on that charge to do something about it. We've been doing it the last 3 years. This is a way to do even more at a scale that will make an appreciable difference in the quality of life of San Diegans.
Okay, location aside, I understand that you're adamant about this. It's an opportunity, but what about the financial conditions? Have you even rethought that with some of the criticism?
Well, Ed, first off, adamant is an understatement.
Pardon me?
Adamant is an understatement. Pull out your thesaurus and get a better word, because this has to get done, right? So with regard to the financial, we are in negotiations. So the criticism that is out there is not reflective of what the reality will be. We have not had a city council public hearing about this yet. We have been negotiating a real estate transaction in closed session currently, and we will, if we get a deal that we can all stand behind, we'll bring it forward. If we can't, then we're going to go find another location. But the criticisms that are there, you know, it's welcome to this job. I mean, people are welcome to do that. But here's the thing. We have not completed a draft lease agreement yet. I mean, we have not completed a lease yet for public consideration. What we have are offers back and forth. This is a traditional real estate negotiation. And if and when we have a deal that is worthy of the council's consideration and support, we'll bring it forward. Again, those negotiations are ongoing. So to characterize the deal as being cooked is not an accurate characterization. This is very much an active concern, but I am motivated. I know the council is motivated. I believe the property owner is motivated, and I'm extremely optimistic we can get to a deal that everyone can support. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, everyone, for being here today. I appreciate it. Thank you all.